Hi, this is Miguel Bevia, and in this vid I'm going to show you 3 tips for painting landscapes as I show you how to paint this scene. For my first step, I'm going to lightly tone my canvas using red ochre. I'm going to use turpentine to create very fluid paint and apply it with a flat sable brush. After the ground layers touch dry, I'll start sketching in my composition with burnt sienna, which leads me to my first tip. In a scene with lots of greens and blues, such as landscapes, many 18th and 19th century artists chose complementary colors like red ochre and burnt sienna for the ground and underpainting layers. The idea behind this is that the reddish underpainting will react with the subsequent layers of greens in the foliage, adding vibration and interest to the painting. If you look at some 18th and 19th century landscape paintings, you will see this warm reddish-brown underpainting still peeking through the top final layers. Once I'm happy with the initial sketch, I'll start massing in some shadows with burnt sienna and a little red ochre. For the darker shadows in the foreground, I'll be using burnt sienna and I'll add a little burnt umber. I dilute the paint with turpentine to create very transparent washes for my underpainting. Now that I've finished the underpainting, I'll start blocking in the painting. I always begin my blocking in stage with whatever is furthest away, in this case the sky. For the sky I'm using a combination of ultramarine blue, titanium white, and a little bit of red ochre to desaturate the color. As I move down towards the horizon, I keep adding a little bit more red ochre and a little bit more titanium white. For the distant mountains, I'm using the same colors I used in the sky, ultramarine blue, red ochre, but with less white. In the blocking in stage, I'm not concerned with any details or highlights, just some simple shapes. As I move my way forward, I start introducing green earth to my colors. Here I am using a combination of ultramarine blue, green earth, and a little bit of burnt sienna. For the light surface of the lake, I will add the reflected color of the sky, which is ultramarine blue, white, and a little bit of red ochre. Now I'm working my way forward, and I'm getting my greens more saturated and darker in value as I bring the scene forward. For these mid-ground trees, I am using green earth, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and I have also introduced viridian to add more saturation to my greens. I'm not focusing on the details or highlights, just the simple shadow masses of these trees. And I'm keeping the shadows very translucent and thin, which brings me to my second tip. Applying your darks thinly and transparently helps create the illusion of depth in the shadows. This is because using white pigment to lighten colors does make the paint more opaque and cover what is underneath. Your opaque lights will stand out more and come forward compared to the transparent application in your shadows, which will let light through the underlayers and create a sense of deepness within. This is especially helpful for painting trees. The leaves and light will be more opaque and stand out in relief compared to the deep transparent shadows in the foliage. To create the shadows in my trees, I'm using very transparent colors such as green earth, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and viridian. So I skipped through most of the blocking in stage, and I'm going to start working on my details and highlights in the painting, which brings me to my third tip in this video. At this stage, I add more layers to the sky and add the clouds and highlights. As I continue to add more details in the painting, I continue to add more layers for the illuminated parts of the mountains. I also progressively add more details to the trees, grass, and water. Here I preserve my brightest lights for last. And finally, I do the windows for this old house in the countryside. I hope this video was helpful. If you would like to see more, please subscribe to my channel and click on the bell button to be notified for future videos.